My name is Brett. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Brett Augustine. I'm a business advisor for North Central Texas Small Business Development Centers, which is a leading provider for assistance for small businesses. We are grant funded, which allows us to offer services at no cost. Today, we're lucky enough to have Miss Lorna Kibbe back with us, talking about a motivated team. What's the secret? And we're looking forward to that. For those of you who don't know Miss Kibbe is a leadership expert, and she's been with the SBDC, the America's SBDC, as a speaker for many years. And we're happy to have you back today, Miss Lorna Kibbe. Thank you, and I look forward to finding out the actual secret. Don't keep us in waiting. Make sure we follow through with that. I want to know what the secret really is. I've got my notes ready to go.
It really is a secret. Hi, everyone. Happy to be here with you for session 3 of our Teams seminar. Like, this is an incredible seminar. If you're here for the first time, welcome. We're happy to have you. The good news is all the other content is available on recordings, and Brett's going to tell you where to find that at the end of the session today. So no worries, you can go back and find it. So today, session 3, talking about teams, is how to motivate your team. What's the secret of a motivated team? And there really is a secret, and you'll have it within an hour. What a great thing, right? I did make a handout for this session. So what you see on your screen is both a link and a QR code, whichever you're comfortable with. Perhaps Brett could type that link into the chat for us. And if you go there, you will find a handout for the session today.
And if
I'm
you
not
would
sharing my
share the
screen, am
screen with us?
I?
No, yeah, there you go. You knew where I was going, didn't you, Lorna?
Okay. Yeah. I got a message that I can't share until you stop, Brett. So
Oh, then
Can we-
give me
can we
just 20
switch?
seconds and it will happen, or less.
let's
How about that?
let's switch. Okay, here we go. Thank you. Here we go.
Welcome.
All right. So now you have my screen. Yes, Brett? Okay.
Absolutely.
So you have the QR code on there. If you haven't done this before, it's real simple. Just hold your camera up to that code and it'll give you a little link. You just click on it and you'll be right there. Or you can use the link that Brett's putting in the chat right now. And this will give you a handout. Now your handout has some very specific information and some blank space, because remember, it's not what I think here, it's what you think. And I'm encouraging you to take notes on what you're going to do when this is done. You know, if you've been with me in a seminar before, you know that I really emphasize this. The time we have together is fantastic, and I'm going to give you great information, blow your mind with all this stuff. But what matters is what happens when we're not together. What matters is what you do with it. So use your handout to take some notes, to jiggle your memory and say, oh, this is something I need to look at. This is something I want to think about. And I really encourage you to use the handout in that way to be able to have something to take away and say, this is what I need to do with this information. So it's there, and I'll show it a couple of times just to make sure that you can have access to it. If you're just joining us, and even if you've been with us, just to refresh, we've been using the context, the model of the 5 behaviors of a dysfunctional team, which has been revamped by Patrick Lencioni, the author, to the 5 behaviors of a cohesive team model. I'm licensed and accredited facilitator for this, so I just want you to know I'm not stealing anybody's stuff. This is all legal, no copyright infringements. I'm fully licensed to use this material. We've been talking about the 5 things that teams have to be really effective. The 5 things that teams need, 5 behaviors that they need to be cohesive. And we've been tackling these one at a time, and we're going to continue to tackle these through the series so that at the end of the series, you'll have a lot of information on all 5 of these things. But we have to pause for a minute, because there's one big thing in the way, and that is that my slide didn't work the way it was supposed to. What that is motivation. We have to stop and talk for a minute about motivation. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about motivation and how that impacts a team's ability to use these behaviors to be a really high-performing, cohesive team. I'm sure that you've been on teams, I would imagine, so have I, where there was a lack of motivation and no one could really figure out why. Sometimes I get calls from leaders who are asking me, just help me motivate my team. I can't get them motivated. And we can't engage in any of these behaviors that you tell us are so great, because nobody's motivated to do anything. And yeah, we have to start there. We have to figure out what's going on with motivation. Why are people not motivated? So today we have some information on that, and will help you to understand what's the secret to motivating your team and how to get past that first hurdle, if that's your first hurdle. I should say, though, this is not just a one-time hurdle. This goes on throughout the life of the organization. There are going to be times when motivation is higher than others, and I think you'll understand why in just a few minutes. So the first thing I'd ask you, and I made a little place on the handout if you grab that, is just to think for yourself about, why do you work hard? Have you ever considered that? Why do I work so hard? I mean, you do work hard, right? Maybe you don't work hard. You don't need to answer this question, but I suspect that most of you work pretty hard. So the question is, why? Why do you work so hard? Because truly the secret to your motivation is probably in the answer to this question. And I see all kinds of answers in this. And if you have an opinion, I'd love for you to put it in chat. You know, if you're willing, why do you work so hard? I'd love to hear what you're thinking. Why do you work so hard? And while I wait to see if anyone chats with me on this, I'll just try to address it generically, because I see a lot of answers to this. You know, some people work hard because they say they want the money. But when we dive into that one, most of the time it's not just the money. There's something driving the need for money. And sometimes what we see with that is that people who feel like the need is money, well, they're not going to be real inclined to stay with your team if they can get better money somewhere else, right? If that's all that's driving them. But usually it's not money. Usually the reason that people work hard is other factors. Like for me, and you've heard some of my stories, I know. I see a chat up here. I like helping others, right? And that's a good one. I like helping others. I've heard that. That's a great one. And Brett, you know, since you brought that up, I'll just say, I'm imagining that, I guess I'm feeling like you probably get a lot of personal satisfaction out of helping others. That makes you feel fulfilled, energized. And that's exactly the kind of answers that people come down to when they really think about why they work hard, because some kind of intrinsic satisfaction comes from working hard. You know, for me, I love going in and doing a session with folks and hearing how it impacts them and hearing what they do with the information into their future and how it helps them. You know, I love it when I run into somebody in the grocery store 5 years later and they remember me and tell me that they learned something from what we talked about and that it helped them in their career. I love that. You know, for me, that's why I work hard, because I want that experience over and over again, you know. And when you think about why you work hard, I'm thinking when it comes down to it, most of you are driven by some kind of internal satisfaction. You do what you do because it feels good, because you like it, because it's something that makes you happy. It makes you feel fulfilled and energized and passionate when you fulfill that need, when you do that. And that's why you work hard. It's not just because Brett said you should. It's not just because the boss is hanging over your head saying you need to work hard, right? There's something else in there. I mean, the truth is, when you think about it, is motivation doesn't really happen when somebody tells you you should do something and that makes you do it. You have the right to decide what you want to do anytime you want to, right? We'll talk a little more about that as we get into this. Because we're talking about teams here, I would ask the second question. Why do you think what do you think your teamwork mates feel about this? Why did they work hard? Why do your teammates work hard? And if you really had time to think about this, and if you're a team leader, and you certainly don't have to be a team leader for this session because this applies to everybody, but if you are a team leader, this could be a really good discussion to have, like in a team meeting, is to ask those two questions. First, what makes you work hard? And then what do you think makes your teammates work hard? And I think you're going to see a lot of similarity, but we also might see some differences because people are different, right? Let's look at the definition of motivation and see if this sheds any light. Motivation is forces acting either on or within a person to initiate behavior. All behavior is motivated by needs. Motivation is forces acting either on or within a person to initiate behavior. So we need something, and to fulfill that need, we behave in a certain way. This picture, can you see this picture on the slide? This is my dog, Darla, who likes to bark at UPS trucks, in case you didn't hear her earlier. You see the little heart on the slide? If you look real closely at that, you'll see that it's over the head of a squirrel. And Darla is very motivated by squirrels. When she sees squirrels, she's motivated to run and try to catch them. She is a hunting breed. She's a Brittany, and Brittany's want to hunt. You know, they want to go flush things out. They want to go find them, and they want to chase them. The problem is that sometimes Darla catches them. Like last week when I had people over that hadn't been to my house before, and I'm in a new house, so I took them on a house tour. And my husband was standing outside the bedroom door, and he was giving me a look like, "Why are you bringing people into our bedroom?" And I'm like, "What's the big deal? It's cleaned up. It's fine." After I come out from taking him on the tour, he says, "You didn't notice the squirrel on the floor in the bedroom that she brought in through the doggy door?" I'm like, "No." So yeah, she had brought a squirrel in through the doggy door. So she's motivated by her need to hunt, you know, to chase, and sometimes she catches them. So what motivates you? What forces are acting on you or within you to make you behave in a certain way? We have to talk a little bit about theory here to understand what motivates teams, what the secret is. You've heard of this, extrinsic versus intrinsic. I know you're all probably familiar with this. Extrinsic rewards supplied by the organization, pleasant working conditions, fair pay, job security, versus intrinsic rewards derived from within the individual, such as self-recognition or personal growth. Right here with teams, it starts to get a little sticky, because when we think about teams, we usually think about extrinsic rewards. I mean, think about it. If you've been in a situation where you've led a team or been on a team where you had a leader and they wanted to provide some kind of rewards, it's usually extrinsic. You know, that's what they want to do. Let's give everybody a trophy. You know, let's give them lunch. Let's do something that's going to make them feel good about being on this team. But that may not necessarily motivate the team members, because maybe it's intrinsic rewards that they're looking for. And that's not so easy for you to supply, is it? So that's the difference, extrinsic versus intrinsic. Whoa, I just saw a big calendar come up on the screen for no reason. Did you see that? It was amazing. Anyway, I hope that's not an omen. Okay. Let's look at some theories of motivation. And I think you've heard of a lot of these. There are so many theories of motivation, right? There are just a million of them. I think it's possible, though, that there's one or two that you have heard of that I'll just talk about real briefly, just because I want to make you understand that really most theory with motivation is based on needs and behavior. Now, there are some others, but this is the big thing. They say, you know, we have certain needs and we behave in a certain way to meet those needs. So there are a lot of needs theorists. And well, you've heard of this guy, right? Maslow. Everybody's probably had Psych 101 at this point. Probably they teach this in middle school now, I would imagine. But this is Maslow. And his theory, you'll recall, was kind of simplistic and, well, interesting, because Maslow had no scientific research at all when he developed this theory. I mean, he just conceptualized this in his head and said, you know, I think it's really interesting that people, before we can talk about anything, have to have certain psychological needs met. And if these needs aren't met, they're not going anywhere. I mean, he just conceptualized this. That's amazing. It's been around for a long time. And I bet some of you have heard some criticism of it. And some of that criticism comes because there's no scientific evidence to support it. And yet it's very intuitive and makes a lot of sense, you know, that until your psychological needs are met, you're not going to be interested in anything above it. Once the psychological needs are met, you have enough to eat, then you can go to safety needs. Am I secure? Am I going to have my job tomorrow? Only when you have those needs met can you go on to having relationships and even working on a team. So think about this, you know, your team members, if they have a lack of psychological or safety needs met, we're not even going to make it up to belongingness and love needs, let alone esteem, which is the prestige and feeling of accomplishment. And finally, self-actualization. which I think the Army slogan says it best on that one, be all that you can be. I think that's what self-actualization really is. But, think about a team. It's like, well, to help you think about this, I'll tell you about a place where I used to work. And it was a state agency. And I started out as, a lowly employee and worked my way through the state system into senior leadership. And I'm grateful to the state of Florida because they taught me so much about leadership. But one of my first supervisory jobs was supervising people who made such little money that they needed the assistance of the agency themselves. So we were in charge of providing food stamps. At the time they were called food stamps, food benefits. Now they get a little plastic card, but they used to actually get food coupons and welfare checks. Now they're called something different to needy people. Many of our employees qualified for those benefits because the pay was so low in those positions. They were still really struggling with physiological needs. They really weren't okay. They really didn't have enough for their families. And we struggled so much in trying to put a team together to do great work there. And you can see that the struggle was like, we were never going to be okay because we didn't have people who had the basic needs met in order to be able to talk about safety needs. They weren't worried about job security so much because they were just worried about what they were going to feed their family next week. When we would reassure them that, your job is safe, everything is good here, you're going to be okay, we try to move them into belongingness. We got some of them there, but you can see what I'm saying. It was very, very hard for us to have a really dynamic team because we had such basic needs of our employees. It wasn't until the point when we were able to boost salaries to a livable wage that we could even start to go up this hierarchy of Maslow's. So it makes a lot of intuitive sense, even though it has, it has some controversy around it, of course, but it makes a lot of sense. And then this one I really love. Have you ever heard of McClellan? I love this one, his clusters, because I think we can really relate to this. Think about the people that think about your teammates, okay? What McClellan says is there are three categories here. You have people who need achievement. These people are motivated. They seek achievement, attainment of realistic, challenging goals, and advancement in the job. They need achievement. They're achievement motivated. Then you have people who have a need for authority and power. And what they need is to be effective, influential, powerful, right? And then other people have a need for affiliation. So what they're really wanting is the relationships. They want those friendly relationships, and they're motivated toward interaction with people. So think about your team, all right? If you have somebody who is really motivated by the need for power, and you try to put them in a team setting and have everybody play equally, they're constantly going to be struggling. It makes sense because their need for power is not being met. They have to be in charge. They have to feel like they're being influential, like they have a lead role in this thing. And being on a team may be difficult for them. I'm not saying they can't do it. They can. But we have to recognize that that's always going to be a little hard for them. Now, our people whose need is for affiliation, they're going to be great on teams. They're going to love being on a team. They're going to be all about it. They can't wait for the next team meeting. Not everybody's going to be excited about that team meeting, but there's people that have that need for affiliation. Yeah, they're going to be really excited about it. And then you have people who have the need for achievement. Think about those team members. They want to see the team getting somewhere. And when the team is lagging and not, achieving those goals and moving and action oriented, they're not going to be very happy because what's the point of this? We just go around in circles. We never really get anything done, right? So you can see how different people on your team, if they're impacted by these different needs, are going to behave differently on your team, right? Maybe you know some people who might fit into these categories, right? So we have to think about this when we're thinking about our teams and how we put them together, is that some of the differences that we have, some of the conflict that we have on our teams, it's not just personality, it's just that people have different needs. And if they are motivated by those needs, then we have to work to get those needs met. And if those needs are not being met, they're not going to be great team players. They're not going to be very engaged. Does that make sense? Is it making sense to you? I know you're probably tired of the theory, so I'll move away from the theory a little bit. But basically, the theory comes down to this. And can it be this simple? I don't know, but it goes like this. We have needs. And because of the needs that we have, we behave in a certain way. And once our needs are satisfied, we go back to other needs and behave towards satisfying those. If we ever reach a time when all of our needs are met, geez, I don't know. I don't know if I've ever known anyone like that. Because we're human, right? There's always something. But that's when we're at our best. That's when Maslow would say we're at self-actualization. We're the best that we can be. So that's really the basis of theory. It's that simple. We have needs, we behave in a certain way in order to meet those needs. And once we've satisfied those needs, then we can move on to something else. So what is the secret then? What is the secret to motivating others? Are you ready for it? Let's have a drum roll. Brett's ready. He's going to take notes. Here it is. The secret to motivating others. The secret. Uh-oh. You can't. I know, what a letdown. You can't really motivate anyone. It has to come from within. Motivation is largely intrinsic. Those extrinsic rewards that we talked about may satisfy for a short period of time, but if intrinsically our needs aren't met, it probably won't last long. Or, as Stephen Covey says, motivation is a fire from within. If someone else tries to light that fire under you, chances are it will burn very briefly. And when you think about it, that makes a lot of sense. You can't really make anyone do anything, and people have different needs. Why? Why can't you motivate people? Because everyone's different. And it's a matter of personal needs. And every person has different needs. And we're all motivated by what we need. And it's interesting because sometimes we have situations like a couple of weeks ago, I had a friend call me to tell me that she was feeling really down because she had lost her motivation. And she said, "You talk about motivation, tell me how to get motivated." And I said, well, what's going on? How's your job? It's fine. How's the family? It's fine. Are you feeling okay? I'm fine. Everything was fine. I think she had reached one of those stages in life where everything was fine. She didn't really have any challenge. Her needs were marginally met, and she had no real desire to stretch out. And so her motivation was gone. We have to challenge ourselves sometimes to take those next steps, to stretch and to move forward and not just be fine. Even though fine is fine. So what does motivate people? What can we do? And, again, I just want to emphasize that when we're talking about your teams here, we're not just talking to team leaders. We're talking to people who are on teams as well as the team leaders, because we do this for each other. Our teammates, our team leaders, we do this for each other. So when I talk to you about these things that we can do to help others be motivated, not just talking to team leaders, we all have to help each other in this. What can we do? What motivates a group of people that age to go to law school and graduate? Do you know how much work that is? Do you know how hard that is? So what is it within them? And if it was something that everybody wanted, why doesn't everybody do it? Because not everybody has that type of motivation within them. It's very personal, very individual. So first I'm going to show you a list. Now that I've told you it's impossible, I'm going to show you a list that you can find anywhere really on the internet of what's said to be the top 10 motivators. So here they are, the top 10 motivators. But when you look at this list, I want you to look at it with new eyes this time. I want you to look at this from what I've just talked about. Is there a need that would be met by supplying these things? And what need might be met? Could you base this back on the needs theory that we just talked about? So let's think about it. These are the 10. feeling appreciation for work done. Now think about that. That's intrinsic. People feel appreciation at different levels. Some people need a lot of feeling appreciated and other people don't, right? Have you ever like had somebody that you tried to appreciate them and they just kind of turn away from it? It's not something they really want. And other people who, no matter how much you appreciate them, they don't even believe you're for real. So even that is at different levels, but you can see how a need is being met when people feel like they're fully appreciated. But how you make them know that they're fully appreciated varies from person to person. People want to feel like they're in on things. Some people want to know everything that's going on in an organization, and others just want to know what I need to do to survive. It's different from person to person. They want you to understand their personal problems. For some people, that means I want to spend an hour telling you about how this affected me and my Aunt Martha and how awful she was at Christmas. And other people just want you to understand that I have problems and give me the space to solve it. So every one of these things, when you look at it, you can see that it comes from different needs. Job security for some people means that their job is going to be here, 2 months from now, 2 years from now. Job security for others means something completely different. So we have to look at it again from a personal level, all of these things. Good wages. What is good wages? What can anybody define what good wages are? Look at the whole thing we're having with minimum wage. Is that a good wage? What's a good wage? Can you define that? No. And it means different things to different people. Some people are thrilled with the increase in minimum wage, and it's going to make all the difference in their world because their needs are going to be met. Other people are like, are you kidding me? That's not a good wage. It all depends on the individual and what their perceived needs are. Is this making sense? You see what I'm saying? It's really very personal and all of these things. So this is the list, that we see on the internet all the time. Here's the 10 things, and here are the top 10 motivators. Well, they are, but they still mean different things to different people. Good working conditions. I have been in some places that were gorgeous. I mean, beautiful. And listen to employees complain because their chairs aren't comfortable. I've been in places that were terrible and listened to employees express appreciation because they have chairs. It really is personal perception. So all of these things, and that's what I want you to understand about this. Yeah, we can name motivators, but how those are fulfilled are very different for each person. So this gives us like a big picture view of what kind of things are important to people in general. But again, this is not alone the answer to motivating individual teammates. There is one thing that we can do, and this is something that we all have to do, and I call it a motivation possible environment. And I think this is probably the biggest challenge for a team leader, is to create this motivation possible environment. And this means an environment where it's possible for people to have their needs met, whatever their personal needs might be. How can we create that environment for people? That's the question. How can we create a motivation possible environment so that everybody feels like they can have their needs met, even though their needs are not the same? Everybody's needs are different. This is so complicated, right? I'm sorry, it's not easy, Brett. There's not a secret answer, but there is an answer. All right. So I'm going to talk to you about 3 things that you can do, 3 secrets to helping others find their own motivation. So what can we do? What can we do? There are some things that we can do. I'm going to talk to you about 3 of them. And as we do, I just want you to listen to these and think about it from your own perspective. But also I want you to think about your teammates. I want you to think about the people around you. And let's see if you can make some notes about some things that you can do to help them be in this motivational environment. What can you do to be happy? Like that guy. He looks happy. He also looks like he's going to fall out of his chair, but that's another story. Okay, so the first big thing, how about you just ask me? How about you just ask me what I need? How about you ask me how I'm doing? How are you doing, Lorna? How are things going for you? Ask them to tell you a story about a project that they completed that they really enjoyed. You're going to learn a lot from listening to their stories, because in those stories, you're going to hear what their passions are, what they were most excited about doing, what they liked, and what they didn't like. And through that, you're learning some of the things we talked about last week, which was understanding what their natural strengths are, and also possible challenges. And for those of you who are interviewing right now, because I know right now it's very challenging with hire people and interviewing, this is really a very interesting interviewing technique, is to use the behavioral interviewing questions, if you've heard of that, and ask people to tell you stories instead of just asking questions. Have you ever had to complete a project that you just had no idea how to do? What happened? Instead of, could you complete a project even if you didn't know how to do it? I need a job, yes. Right? So ask them to tell you stories. That's a great interviewing technique. And really listen to it, because you'll hear what's exciting to them. You'll get a lot of information about what motivates them and whether you can provide it. If you're hiring in a situation where you need people to work as a team, you might want to consider if they have that skill set and those strengths to work with a team. If their need is strictly for power and they're not going to be the team lead, is that going to be a good fit for your team? Are you going to be able to provide that motivation environment for them? Which you can. People who need power, they just need their own project to be in charge of. They need a way to be in the lead. And maybe you need, somebody to help lead a certain part of the team. Just have to consider, are you going to be able to meet their needs? Are you going to be able to create that motivation environment, that motivation possible environment? And if you can at all, if you know that that's not going to work on this team situation, then maybe that's not the right fit. And you could save yourself some turnover down the road. So that's the first big thing, is just ask them what they need. This is especially useful when you're in a situation where you have an employee who's kind of lost their motivation, maybe somebody who's been doing really well for a long time and all of a sudden they're just not. And you're not sure why. You're not sure why their performance is going down, or why they're losing interest, or they don't seem as engaged. I know this sounds simplistic, but I've been in a lot of organizations where this suggestion has really changed it for the team leader, because team leaders are sometimes, and coworkers are very hesitant to ask you what's up, to have that heart to heart, to say, Lori, you are like so dynamic, and you've always been one of my superstars. You're always so enthusiastic and willing to do anything. And lately I've noticed you seem kind of down, and it seems like you've slowed down a little bit. Are you okay? Is there anything going on? And just let them talk to you, because you'll find out some really interesting things. You never know what's going on at home. You never know, with COVID, what's happening, where they're at. And maybe you can really help save somebody for your organization that otherwise would eventually spiral down and walk out the door. So please just ask people, what do you need? What do you need? And you're not always going to be able to provide it, but maybe you can create a motivation possible environment. Maybe you can help them find a way to fulfill that need in your organization. So that's the first big thing. Just ask them. Here's another thing, assess. And I'm a big fan of assessment. I think many of you know I'm a big fan of DISC, and I do DISC. I'm licensed for DISC. I love it. I think it's a great way to find out the strengths and the personalities of your teammates, your employees, so that you can work together, because a really well-functioning team has people that have different skill sets. It's kind of scary when you see a team where everybody has the same skill set, because the manager is asking the same questions and getting the answers that people would expect to give in order to get a job. And you end up with a lot of people who are exactly the same with their personalities, and you don't have anyone counterbalancing. You know what I'm saying? So you have some people who are very detail oriented naturally. And that's great. That's a tremendous strength. But we also need some people who are the opposite of that, who are very vivacious and creative in their thinking and not just all focused on the details. So you need a good balance of that. Appreciation. Some people like for appreciation to be very public. They want everybody to hear that they've done a good job. But some people, that would be demotivating to them. The last thing they want is for you to bring them up in front of everybody and show appreciation. They'd much rather you do it privately. So assessing so that you really can get to know people. And think about the other thing, the affiliation that I talked about. If their need is for affiliation, they need to be on a team. They need opportunities to collaborate. If you bring them in and they're not on a team or they have no opportunities to collaborate, you're telling them to sit in their office and do data input all day, and they're not having any contact, no team, and their need is for affiliation. That's their primary need. Of course, we have a need for a little bit of all of it. You're going to have a problem. They're not going to be able to perform at their best because they're not in a motivation possible environment. Their needs can't be met. So that's the kind of thing that we can learn from doing assessments. If they're needed for achievement, they've got to have growth and learning opportunities. It's complicated, right? This is everything DISC management. This is one of the tools that we use for assessments, and this is just management. The reason I'm just showing you this is because I just want you to see, like on this graph, this is a great visual from Wiley, the licensing company I work with, that shows you different people. These are different styles. DIS and C are the different styles, and you can see the different motivators for the different styles. A manager who is at the DI line up there, action oriented, up towards the top, what they're motivated by is pushing the team toward new opportunities. I point that out because a lot of our entrepreneurs and small businesses kind of fall in that part of the graph. They're very entrepreneurial. They're very energetic and have new ideas all the time. So they're pushing their team towards that. But you can see it if you look opposite of it down at the bottom. We have some folks that are reliability. That's what motivates them. They want consistency, clarity, and stability. And that's very different. So understanding the people on your team and where they are on this graph and what the different needs are and that they're all different and they might be opposite. That's the reason for doing assessment, to try to understand everybody on the team, to get to know everybody and have everybody work together in that way. That will really help you. So these are two things you can do. You can ask and you can assess. Remember this from last week. People who use their strengths every day are more likely to be engaged on the job and to be happier with their lives in general. Remember that? People who use their strengths every day are more likely to be more engaged on the job, to be happy with their lives in general, and to be motivated. What else can you do? Here's your third thing. Isn't that a cute picture? Aw, pay attention. This guy is telling us he has a problem. He wants to go out. He's giving us a little signal. You know what? Your teammates will give you signals too. Your employees will give you signals. Your team leader will give you signals. If you just watch what's going on around you, pay attention, you'll see that a lot of people do have needs that are not being met. You'll see when something is not right, when something's off, and you'll be able to go back and ask and assess to see what you can do to meet their needs, to take a look. So pay attention to what's going on to those around you so that you can create that motivation possible environment. Just pay attention. So lessons here, vital lessons. True motivation, it comes from within. Application of needs theory can help us understand what motivates our employees. We can't apply group solutions because each individual is different. Although we can't really motivate others, we can help create an environment in which they can self-actualize, shine, when they can do great. I had someone call me, this was gosh, I guess just before COVID. And it was a team leader, and he was very upset. And I wanted to tell you this story because I think you'll understand it now. I think you'll understand it better than he ever did. He was very upset because he had just done he had made a really big effort to motivate his team. He saw that they weren't performing at their best, morale was down. He decided he was going to do a big event to really give his team a boost and get everybody excited so they would be motivated to perform the way he needed them to perform. So he planned a big luncheon. And it sounds like it was a pretty big shindig. He planned this luncheon and he had a local caterer come in. They had the best barbecue in town from one of their local folks. They had the shredded pork with the signature sauce and French fries and coleslaw. It was, quite a spread, like all you can eat. So they came in, they were mandated to come because he wanted everybody there because this was a motivation event. So it was mandatory. Everybody had to come. They had this big lunch. So they had their lunch. And towards the end of the lunch, he showed them a film that he thought was very motivational about the history of the company and, where it was going in the future that someone in corporate had put together. So he thought that was good. And then afterwards, for the big finale, after they finished eating and seeing their film, he gave everybody a trophy. He had gone out and ordered a trophy, world's best team, and put the name of their team on there. It wasn't huge, but it was still a trophy. Who doesn't want a trophy? Of course, everybody wants a trophy. So he called them up one by one, and he, talked about each person. This is let's see, who do we have on here? Oh, this is Paula. And Paula deserves this trophy because we had problems with our technology. And Paula was able to fix these problems. And even, we were all panicked, but Paula never panicked. And she fixed it. Everything went off great, So he told a little story about every single person. And he said, now, does it get any better than that? I mean, I gave everybody appreciation. I gave everybody food. I had this whole event for them. They all came. And it didn't help at all. He said, as a matter of fact, I got some flack for it. Like some people were upset. And I don't understand why, because nobody will even talk to me about why they were upset. What question do you think I had to ask him? What did you do to meet the individual needs of employees with this little ceremony? What about people who don't like barbecue? Do you think it's possible that some of your employees were actually insulted that you didn't know that they're vegan and would never touch the stuff and they don't even want to smell it? And you had no options for anything else because you were convinced everybody would love your barbecue, right? Never considered that. Never considered that. So boom, hello, you don't know me. You don't pay attention to me. You don't know this about me. Like, how rude, right? We talked about appreciation. There were people that almost died when you called them up there and told the story about them because they don't, and some of you know what I'm talking about. That would be horrifying to you. That would make you that would demotivate you in a big way because public appreciation is not something you're a fan of, right? Other people were insulted by the story because it was private and it was, something they had done. They didn't think he should be sharing. He shared some personal information about families. They were put off by that. They didn't like the corporate film. There was just a whole bunch of things that bottom line was, and I hope you can understand this now, he just didn't take into consideration the individual needs of his employees. He tried to apply a mass solution. Mass solutions don't work with motivation because it's based on individual needs. And needs are different. So all the things we think about with teams, these are the things we can do to make our teams really motivated. This is all we have to do. It doesn't work like that. First, you have to consider the individual needs of your team members, and then you can try to do some kind of an activity that honors those different needs of your employees. So be careful. So what we're coming down to here is, Brett, the secret is really this. Team motivation is kind of a misnomer because team motivation doesn't exist beyond the needs of individuals. The needs of your individual team members have to be met first so that the team as a whole can be motivated because everybody is motivated. Everybody's in that motivation possible environment and everybody's able to participate at their max. And guess what else? Needs change. Remember the little graphic that I showed you? You have a need, we do a certain behavior, that one's met, we go around, we go to another one. So never think you get it. Never think you know what their needs are. I mean, we have a pretty good idea of what strengths and challenges are when we get to know our people, but those needs are going to change. So you're going to have to stay on top of that, whether you're a leader or a teammate. You know, you can't make assumptions and take for granted that you know what my needs are. You have to check in every now and then to see what's changed and has this need been met? Now there's a new need. So you're going to have to keep up with that too. This is why motivation is particularly complicated, because there's not really a secret sauce. It's different for every person, and every person has different needs. But the three things we can keep in mind is first to ask, how are you? What do you need? What's going on with you? Do your assessment. Do the best that you can to get to know your team members, get to know the people around you, keep an eye on what's going on. The best teams function in such a way that you have some people that are really super strong in things that other people are really super awful at, and vice versa. That's what makes us really strong, is when we all have different strengths and challenges. We never want somebody with a team with all the same strengths, because we'll miss a whole section of things by never living up to the challenges that we don't even recognize, right? And pay attention. Just pay attention to what's going on around you. Watch for those little signs that something's up, something's changed, something's different, something's going on. Be aware of it. And then go back to number one. Ask, what's going on? I guess we can make a big circle out of that. Ask, assess, pay attention continuously. How about you? How do you stay personally motivated? What if no one's looking at you? What if no one's asking you or assessing you and paying attention? What do you do for yourself personally? And this is important, because self-motivation, right? It's a big part of an emotional intelligence. It's a big part of survival in any organization. I hope that what you're hearing today is that no one can motivate you. Only you can motivate you. So let's talk about self-motivation for just a minute here. What can you do? First thing is know what you need. You need to really think about what your needs are. If you can't figure out your needs, I sure can't. So everybody needs to figure out, what are your needs and what are you doing to meet this? And this is a whole lot simpler than it sounds. It really is, because this requires you to do some self-assessment and think about what you enjoy doing, what gives you that intrinsic satisfaction, what makes you self-motivated, what needs have to be met for you to be motivated. For me, if I use myself as an example, I had a really great job, and the really great job got sucked up and tossed. But that's okay, because my employer had an idea. They had another really great job for me, and they gave me the really great job, and they gave me a pay raise. The problem was it didn't meet my needs, because with me, what I need to be around people. I need to collaborate. I need to be a part of that team, and I need to be able to brainstorm and come up with ideas and be excited and passionate. They wanted me to do quality assurance. And for all the great ideas I had for how we could solve problems, they wanted me to tell people they weren't allowed to do that. This is not according to policy. It was killing me. It's like, I would like be reading something that they did, and I'd be applauding, going, this is amazing. What a great solution. That worked. It's great. And my boss would come back and say, it's not about great solutions. It's about following the letter of the law. And I'd be like, oh, but look what they did. They did something so amazing. You must crush them. That was not meeting my needs. And when I realized that, I had to change jobs. It was so hard. But I was never going to be self-motivated, because that was not an environment in which I could be motivated, because my personal needs weren't being met. Okay, that was a deep personal story, but I hope it makes the point of what I'm talking about. So put yourself in situations that make it possible for you to behave in the ways that allow your needs and desires to be met. That's how you become self-motivated. Honestly, I know this is hard to hear, but if you are not in a situation where you can be self-motivated and where your needs can be met, and you're miserable, because you probably are, you need to change that. You know, I feel really kind of sad for people who hate their jobs. As hard as it is, you gotta change that. This is your life. You only get one, you know, so if you really hate your job, it probably means that your needs are not being met and you're not in a situation where your needs can't be met. And you think, oh, I need to stay here because of the money. There's a lot more to it than money. So just think about it. What do you need to do to meet your needs? Now, maybe you can find a different area to focus on where your needs can be met and stay in the same place. That's fine, but this is something you have to think about. That's why this is not as easy as it sounds, because this is self-assessment, figuring out what do you need, what are your needs, and then what situation can you be in so that your needs can be met, so that you can be like my friend who said, I'm fine, everything's fine. And we had to encourage her to stretch further and come up with something new. So here's just some helpful tips for you if you're looking at this self-motivation thing. First thing is to find ways to maximize your resources. What I find is like and the undiscovered resources, what I find is sometimes people's needs aren't being met because they're just not taking advantage of things around them that would help them to meet the needs. You know, I see this a lot with like really stressed out employees who have multiple children, or you know, a family situation that requires them to really be pulled in different directions. And you know, when we sit down and we really look at it, it's like, it's not that they're not in the right job. They love the job. They're just being pulled away from it because they can't meet their safety need. They can't meet their physiological need. So maybe we need to look at resources that you can pull from to meet those basic needs, as Maslow described them to us, so that you can get back up to self-actualization. And the thing about Maslow's model that really stinks is like, you can be self-actualizing all over yourself today, and tomorrow go right back down to physiological needs. You know, you get fired, something happens, there's an illness in the family, and all of a sudden you find yourself all the way back down there. So there are a lot of resources that are around you that you can take advantage of that might help you. So the answer is not always just pulling the plug. You know, there are some things that you can do. Ask others for help. It's hard for some of us, I know, for some of you, to ask for help. And especially in the situation that we've been in the past, how long has it been now? Seems like a lifetime, but I think about 2 years, right? It's been really tough. It's been a struggle. And for some folks, I know how hard it is to ask for help. It really is. You know what's interesting though? There's so many people that really want to help. There are so many people that are really motivated. Just like Brett told us in the beginning, what motivates him? Helping others. He would love to help you. You know, there are people that would really love to help you because that would meet a need for them. So think about that next time you're like, oh, I don't want to bother anybody. I don't want to trouble them. I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to get help with this. There are a lot of people that would really be motivated by having an opportunity to help. So maybe we can all help each other in that way, in kind of a strange way, right? So if you need help, you know, get some input, ask others for help, reach out. Maybe if your team lead or your coworkers aren't watching and paying attention, maybe you have to hit them over the head with it sometimes, you know, but take care of yourself. And then, yeah, sometimes you do just have to suck it up and do what you have to do. That's for sure, right? I mean, you can't just quit your job if you have absolutely no food and no income and have a family. I know that. So in that case, go back and ask others for input and look for some resources to help. Sometimes we got to suck it up. It's hard being a grown up, isn't it? All right. So for your teammates, and this is your final list here that I'll show you, this is a list of things that you can like get started with your teammates. These are things that people want. So I wanted to show you this list, and I included this one on the handout for you so that you would have it. These are the factors that drive high levels of accomplishment. These are things that create optimum environments for people. And just asking, you know, for their opinion, having people help us to solve problems is important. But if you need a list of things that you can do just to get started, like, well, this is a lot, how can I get started? Here you go. Start simple. Just personally thank people. You can't believe what a motivator that is for some folks. Remember the whole thing about being appreciated? The nice thing about this is not public or private appreciation. It's something that you can do simply for everyone that everyone will appreciate. I mean, really, when's the last time you thanked your spouse for doing the dishes or folding your laundry or mowing the grass or taking out the garbage, taking care of the kids, putting dinner on the table? Every day there are so many opportunities to just appreciate people that I think we forget. Our coworkers, thanks for making that copy for me. Thanks for bringing me a cup of coffee. Thanks for taking care of that customer. I know it wasn't even your customer. You took care of it. Thank you. Just look for opportunities to thank others. I'm harping on this one a little bit because this is the one that worries me when I talk to leaders, because I have team leaders tell me, I don't see the need to be thanking people. They're doing the job they were hired to do and they're being paid to do the job. So why should I say thank you? Oh, that always hurts. It's because people need to feel valued and appreciated. And we need to do that for each other. So I'm asking you to do that for each other, thank people, just thank your coworkers, thank each other. And let's just let people know that we appreciate them. Personally, thank people. Consider and appreciate the talents of everyone, sharing credit when it's warranted rather than taking credit away from them. Just listening to people, just taking time to listen and give encouragement to others, encourage them. We all love to have a little bit of encouragement. We all need that. So that's an easy one, right? We can do that. Giving and receive feedback. We had a whole session not too long ago on how to do that constructively that you can go back and listen to if you like. Asking for opinions, even if you're not going to use or what they say, just asking is a nice thing that, keeps people kind of motivated because they have an opportunity to give input, keeping your promises and the celebrations of success. But all of these things, again, come back to the individual. It's what the individual needs and what works for the individual. Like I said, it's not that easy because we are a team. And, this whole series is about team. And we want to know how to motivate the team. We can't motivate the team unless every individual on the team shares in that motivation. And then we can find that synergy that comes about by getting those ultimate results. I'm sorry, it's not an easy fix. There's my motivation thing that was supposed to come up before. Motivation. So what are you going to do next? And before I close and talk about what you're going to do next a little bit more while you think about it, let me just check and see if we have questions out there. Brett, I haven't been monitoring the chat. You got anything?
No, there was a couple of comments as you went early on about what do you do once you become totally fulfilled. Retirement came up as a possibility. I'm sure that it was Brett being funny, but the point was clear. You brought a lot of things. If you guys have some questions, please throw them in the chat now, or feel free to unmic yourself and let Lorna know. In the meantime, I just want to make a quick note to a couple of things that I had as takeaways. And number one, I've been a leader in a large company for over 30 years. And as a leader doing these types of things, you think you really have a grip on it until you attend one of Lorna Kibbe's meetings. And I learned something from you every single time. And this time I learned some stuff that I had never considered. As much as I've made some successes in my life, I wish I had seen this particular one before, because the different ways that people perceive each person for their own fulfillment has totally resonated with me today. And I hope it has with everybody, because the whole point of it is we always have team building experiences and we try to make this idea, like you said, we focus on an activity, or we focus on everybody getting together to achieve something together to motivate them as a team, when the reality is we should be paying attention to them, if I've got right what you were saying today, and listen to them and understand what fulfills them each as individuals, so that as they come together as a team, you're meeting a little bit of everybody's. And then you put it in my brain, such as a picnic. My wife is a human resources person, for example. When you're planning a company picnic and you plan a picnic with what you think would be right for everybody. Yay, it's gonna be great. And then you find out not everybody's the outdoorsy type, or, you know, whatever. Sometimes what might be better now is to apply a lot of things that we learned today and say, why don't I have different types of personalities on a committee to help plan that, so that they can feel fulfilled, empowered to make the decisions, et cetera, and have everybody's buy-in on a generality. What do you think of that? Did I just, man, that was such good information. So if you have questions, I'm hearing, yes, love this, great list of opportunities, great opportunities to appreciate people. Thank you so much for all that great information. So, but you've inspired me today to just sit back and go, wow, you do not know everything, even when you think you know anything. Thank you again for not just humbling me, but to help enhance me. That is fulfilling one of my needs.
Well, thank you, Brett, for that. And, you know, I'm sitting here as you're saying that, feeling a little sad, because I don't know how many times I've kind of been heartbroken, really. And I've learned, you know, over time, but it's like when I thought I was doing something so great for my team, and I would be so heartbroken and disappointed when I had somebody who didn't like it. You know, somebody who was like, why did we have to do that?
Absolutely.
Like, are you kidding? I felt like I was doing such a great thing. And, you know, I didn't really have a handle on exactly what I've been talking about here, is that just because I think it's a great thing, doesn't mean you think it's a great thing. And, you know, taking that, if I would have considered those things first, I could have done a much better job of creating motivational environments and motivational events that everybody would have been a part of. So it makes it a lot more complicated, you know, because you really have to think, but also much more effective. It does get easier over time when you practice it, but it's a lot to think about, recognizing that it's not just a bunch of people, it's a group of individuals who all have needs. And the secret is considering all of those needs and then being able to put something together that makes everybody excited and motivated. Yeah. So,
well, thank you so much. I think this is the best time I've ever had being disappointed that it wasn't going to be that easy. So
I know. I was kind of sad in the beginning. It's like, oh, I'm going to break his heart.
You did, but it's okay. You brought it full circle and made it even better. Thanks for that. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and let you go ahead and close it out with what we'll do next.
Okay. Yeah. What are you going to do next? And that's what I want you to really think about. I want you to make some notes on your handout about what are you going to do next with what you've learned. You know, maybe you have an event coming up. Maybe you have a team meeting coming up. What are you going to do? How are you going to use this? You know, my idea would be the three things that I talked about. Maybe first you want to just start asking people what they need. And I know that sounds like a silly question, but it's really one of the most personal and fulfilling questions you can ask me. Because when you ask me, what do you need? You're telling me you care. And boy, isn't that what we all need? We just want somebody to care. It doesn't mean that I can always meet your needs, but at least I cared enough to ask. So maybe asking is the first thing you want to look at. Or the assessment piece. You know, there are great assessment tools out there. There's several of them. I like DISC. There are others. I know you've used some of them. I'm surprised at how many people spend money to do some kind of an assessment and then don't do anything with it. If you've done that, you've got such great information to go on to really understand each other. So look at that assessment piece so you can see what the needs are and the challenges. And just watch, you know, really pay attention to people around you. Somebody that talks all the time who suddenly isn't, or even somebody who never talks who suddenly is. What has changed? You know, what's going on, and is that something that we need to tune into? So make a list for yourself, or at least make one promise to yourself, something that you're going to do to use this information going forward. And one thing you can do is get the next one on your calendar, because here they are, and I'll let Brett tell you about these. But today's a motivated team. Next time, oh my gosh, this is going to be a big one. Team conflict, how to make it productive conflict. What an idea. Oh my gosh. But that's next Thursday. So I hope to see you there. And of course, the book Becoming a Better Boss has a lot more information on these concepts for you. If you're interested in that, my book is available on Amazon.com. Brett, take it away. Tell us about these recordings. You're muted, Brett. Brett, you're muted.
Things moved around whenever you
There you
stopped
go.
sharing.
Gotcha.
All of a sudden the buttons went
Oh,
everywhere. My
I know,
bad.
I'm sorry.
No, what do you? It's all good. Allow me to do this real quick and share with you guys some of the things. Again, this was Lorna Kibbe again today. And thank you so much, Lorna, for helping us motivate our teams better and tell us the secrets. We have a couple of things here coming up I want to share with everybody. January 24th is Preparing for Success, Updating Financial Goals for 2022. And of course, on the 25th as well, Intro to QuickBooks Online Part 1. So this is for those of you that are really focused on some of the finances for your companies. You'll see that we're going to be coming up with some new training for that. Please don't miss it. On the 27th, Pinpointing Your Target Market with Melissa Forziat. And of course, Ms. Lorna Kibbe is coming back. As you saw her much more detailed list of all of the things coming up, but team conflict will be the next one, how to make it productive. And then again, Angela Robinson will be coming up with what to consider when choosing your business structure. Now, for more information about that, please go to the QR code in the top right-hand corner. It'll send you directly to the link so you can see all of the different types of training that are coming up soon. And if you want, you can also go to our website for more information. You can even schedule one-on-one time with a business advisor if you'd like. There's plenty of ways that you can do that. And we want to take a moment real quick to let you know there will be a survey coming out after this to everybody who's attended today. And it would please just take the 2 minutes out to let us know what type of training you would be interested in getting. And we will do our very best to try to facilitate getting you some of that, as well as the contact information if you need it or anything like that. So with that said, as we are funded, I'd like to thank a few people. Small Business Administration, of course, the state of Texas, North Texas SBDC Regional Office, and North Central Texas College. They are all sponsors to make this happen to you at no cost, and we're really happy that they do. We want to thank everybody for joining us today. And Ms. Kibbe, do you have anything else you'd like to say on goodbye? Because I'm going to go buy your book as soon as I can. Now that I know it's available on Amazon. Is there anything you'd like to close out with?
Thank you, Brett. Yeah, I would just encourage everybody, a little encouragement from Lorna. I know things have been tough, but let's talk about self-motivating. Let's take care of ourselves. Let's find out, let's do some thinking about what our needs are, and then let's go meet those needs and enjoy this life. So,
wow.
And
on that note, this will conclude our webinar for today. Thank you so much for joining, and we look forward to seeing you soon.